The Bristol Bay watershed in southwestern Alaska supports the largest sockeye salmon fishery in the world, as well as 31 Alaska Native tribes of the Yupik, Dinaena, and Alutiiq indigenous people who have depended for thousands of years on Bristol Bay's pristine environment to support their traditional way of life. Since Bristol Bay's commercial fishery started in 1883, Bristol Bay continues to produce almost half of the global supply of wild sockeye salmon, with more than 50% originating in the Nushagak and Kvichak watersheds. This productivity is due to the undisturbed habitat that Bristol Bay's tribes have been stewards of since time immemorial. Unfortunately, the Nushagak and Kvichak watersheds are home to an even greater threat: multiple gold and copper mineral deposits that would devastate the fragile and pristine ecosystem if mine development moves forward. The largest proposed mine, at the Pebble deposit, is located precisely at the headwaters of these vital river systems. Pebble will be the largest open pit mine in North America, covering more than 80 square kilometers with multiple earthen tailings dams to hold over 10 billion tons of toxic waste materials in perpetuity. It would be so large, it not only could be seen from space, but would be 3 times the size of the current largest copper and gold mine, Bingham Canyon in Salt Lake City. With a lifespan of only about 50 years, the Pebble mine would forever risk not only salmon cultures that have thrived in Bristol Bay, but also the thousands of sustainable commercial fishing jobs, and would leave the nation's last great sockeye salmon fishery with over 10 billion tons of toxic waste to monitor forever. This toxic waste is created automatically as a part of the mining process. The sought-after sulfide ore, by its chemical nature, generates sulfuric acid when exposed to air and water. This sulfuric acid would continue to build with the steady rains in perpetuity and would almost certainly leach into subterranean water systems, harming soil and water quality. Even before this occurs, trace levels of copper would inhibit the salmon's delicate sense of smell, which they use to navigate from the oceans upstream to their birthplace for spawning. In other words, the salmon could lose their ability to reproduce before the sulfuric acid has a chance to kill them. Worse still, there's a high likelihood of a catastrophic failure from any number of factors, including failure of the tailings dam, the wastewater treatment plant, or multiple pipelines carrying product concentrate, oil, diesel, and contaminated water. Nowhere on Earth has a mine like this not polluted its surrounding environment. And never before has a mine like this been in an area as sensitive as Bristol Bay. In addition to threats from recent extreme weather patterns, Pebble sits squarely on top of a fault line in a seismically active area. As the EPA watershed assessment demonstrates, even if nothing goes wrong with Pebble, the mine would still destroy salmon spawning grounds and cause unprecedented water use damage in an area composed entirely of salmon spawning habitat. If this type of development moves forward in Bristol Bay, the planet will lose one of the last great pristine and sustainable ecosystems on Earth. Habitat that supports more than 30 fish, 40 mammal, and 190 bird species. These creatures exist in perfect harmony, with salmon predators depositing nutrients that fertilize terrestrial vegetation, which in turn provides food for moose, caribou, eagles, birds, wolves, and of course, people. Above all else, Bristol Bay is the home of 31 Alaska Native tribes whom the U.S. government has a trust obligation to protect and help thrive.